Brown shoe, bad drawing with a brown shoe, alarm clock, and a brown shoe. There was a study that had participants look at better images of brown shoes and intermittently would show an alarm clock. What the participants perceived was that the alarm clock images were on screen longer, even though they weren't, but just because they broke the monotony of the brown shoe images, that made things seem longer. And I learned about this study from the book The Power of Moments by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. And it's about different moments in life and in media and things, and how you can use these moments and have understand how powerful these moments can be. One example in the book is high school students that treat picking their college the same way that high school athletes do for not professional, but that go to where there's draft day and you put the hat on, so they had the same experience, and it really gave the younger students aspirations to go to college and things like that. So what I want to talk about is just that idea of powerful moments are everywhere. So I'll look at video games, wrestling, and TV. And I'll start with video games. So powerful moments can start with storyline. So growing up, this was kind of like this iconic moment for me when I was, and you might be rolling your eyes if you play a lot of games because it's just, Final Fantasy VII, very like cliche, or like over, a lot of people think it's overrated and things like that, but this was a powerful moment, experiencing death while playing a game. Then moments in video games can also come from experience. So another thing that always sticks out to me is this terrible drawing of a skateboard, but of course it's a shell. And this was really like the moment I was so wowed by like my Nintendo 64, the first time I surfed on a green shell. And what Mario reminds me of is that in looking at moments, we can look at endings and then achievements. So in Super Mario on the NES, you just each stage does have the flag, but a lot of times growing up, I was always focused on like beating the game, and that was the one big moment for me, was beating the game. And then so much so that in Mario 3, you can do that trick with the 2 whistles, and you could skip over all 8 worlds, however many worlds there are, and just get to the final world, go through that, and beat the game. And I must have done that so many times before actually going through the game, and I was missing out on really cool levels like the giant world and all of that. It's important to celebrate some of the smaller moments with achievements, and now they are like just flat out called achievements, but something in Mario 64, which I showed earlier, is just that instead of beating the game as this big achievement, a lot of it was in exploring the stage, going through, getting the stars on each stage, and then even after you beat the game, that's less of an achievement, and the biggest achievement there was collecting all of the stars, and that's when you really have like that completionist thing. So, moving on from games, we can talk about something less fictional, but not all the way into reality, wrestling. So, in wrestling, the moment can be part of a story. Of course, this heartbreaking moment when I was a kid, they're right through the window. So this is something that was from the story. Then it can also be part of a match, and each match has its own story too. So this is part of the story of a match, but matches can have their moments that are really important. So of course everyone remembers this when Mankind hits Undertaker with a chair. Well, no, they don't really remember that. That's not the powerful moment from this match. It's of course Mankind getting thrown off of the cage or the cell. And that's an example of how a moment can be a part of the match. And then other powerful moments in wrestling are the ones that blur reality. So you have like CM Punk doing his whole pipe bomb thing. And then for me, this is the one that really sticks out, is just Montreal Screwjob. I didn't know what was happening, but it did kind of change wrestling in a lot of ways. Set the stage for a lot of the things that followed with the Monday Night Wars and things. Well, it was already going, but yeah, it's just like one of those moments in wrestling history. And now, going from this blurred reality and fiction of wrestling, we can go back to complete fiction and talk about TV. In particular, I should just put Game of Thrones instead of TV. So, a moment it can be a little bit relative. So, a moment can be one episode from an entire season that sticks out. So, we know that a lot of it's usually the 9th episode in Game of Thrones seasons where there's a lot of action and things like that. So you know that there's going to be a peak in the 9th episode where things build up to. And examples of this are like, I think Blackwater and the Hard Home episode. And then scoping it down for any individual episode, there can be one scene that is really powerful. So when Jamie talks about he's in the, I think it's like a giant bath, but it's very murky water. Anyway, he has the scene where he talks about why he killed the king and that that the king wanted him to kill his dad and things like that. And this is a really powerful scene, and it's almost not just a powerful scene in the episode. It's a really powerful scene in the series where it kind of changes the entire character and how you look at him. And then all the way down to like one moment, of course, in the first season, we see what happens to Ned. And that one moment kind of defines the show in a lot of ways. And it really sets the stage for like, okay, no one's really safe, which as the story progresses, that becomes less true. After a few seasons, now a lot of people seem safe, but for a lot of seasons, it was just like, oh, anything can really happen. And you want to be careful though, because I guess like who am I to say give advice to people making movies? But you can be too focused on moments sometimes. So this is just an idea I got from Nerdwriter. Which I just would like to point this out. Thanks for that. He has a great video on this where he looks at Batman versus Superman and how it's a little too focused on creating moments where it's just like, oh, this like 1 or 2 seconds will look really great on screen. And how does this apply to life? I'm going to try to shoehorn this into a real life lesson. So if you get too focused on moments, regular surprise can become routine. Maybe you do something to surprise, if you're running a business, surprise the employees. I don't know, bring something in, give them a treat. And then you start doing it every Friday. And the problem with that is that if it becomes every Friday, it's a routine. And then if you stop doing it, then it's bad. And it's no longer a surprise. That said, routines can be good. If you want to achieve things, do like some self-development, improve yourself, then yeah, it's important to have systems and routines for that. But you can also get too far into that routine to where you're in a rut, and then what you don't want is for just time to pass you by, and you're not really celebrating those small achievements, not celebrating grabbing the flags in each stage, grabbing all the stars. You're just waiting for the top of the mountain, and that is sometimes less satisfying than you'd expect. So in this video, talked about video games, wrestling, and TV, and the moments in there, and hopefully in some way that gives you an idea of how you can apply it to life. So remember, don't have your surprises at the same time every week. That will just lead to having these brown shoes all the time. You want to mix them up, put your surprises. You can schedule like good times and schedule them intermittently, and that will help you get out of your routine. So I'll end with this quote. Make sure your life has alarm clocks, but not too many alarm clocks, because then they just turn into brown shoes. A wise man once said. So thanks for checking this out. Also check out the book, Power of Moments. It's really good. Much better than this video. And check out that Nerdwriter video. And hit subscribe if you like this. Thanks a lot.